Have you ever stopped to wonder, why is the night hollow? No empty as in quiet, but literally hollow. No face, no voice, almost no emotions, and somehow, this tiny silent warrior is expected to save an entire kingdom. But here's the strange part. Throughout Hollow Knight, we discovered that thousands of creatures looked almost exactly like the knight, and almost every single one of them died. So what exactly is the knight? Why was it created, and what does being hollow actually mean? Today we're investigating one of the biggest mysteries in Hollow Knight, because the answer is much darker than most players realize. Let's start with the evidence. At first glance, the knight looks like a cute little bug wearing a white mask, but that mask isn't actually a helmet, it's part of its body. Inside, there's almost nothing. If you pause during certain animations or look closely at official artwork, you'll notice there are no visible eyes, no mouth, and almost no facial expressions. Even stranger, the knight never speaks, not a single word throughout the entire game. Most silent protagonists simply don't talk because of gameplay, but in Hollow Knight, the silence has a reason, a terrifying one. To understand the knight, we need to travel to one of the darkest places in the Hallownest, the Abyss. Hidden beneath the kingdom lies an enormous pit filled with thousands and thousands of tiny broken shells. When players first discover this area, it's easy to think they're just decorations. However, they're not. Those are bodies. Every shell belonged to a failed vessel, which raises a disturbing question. Why would there be thousands of them? Because the knight wasn't unique, it was only one attempt out of countless others. The next clue points directly to the Pale King. Long before the events of the game, Hallownest faced an unstoppable threat, the infection. A mysterious force that corrupted the minds of nearly every living creature. The Pale King searched desperately for a solution, but instead of creating an army, he tried something much stranger. He wanted to create a being with absolutely no mind, no emotions, no desires, and no thoughts. Because the infection spread through dreams, he believed an empty mind couldn't be infected, so he and the White Lady created countless children, known as vessels. And then they threw almost all of them into the abyss. Only one would be chosen. This is where many players misunderstand the story. Being hollow doesn't simply mean empty inside. It actually means having no will. Imagine trying to tempt someone who has no dreams, no fears, no memories, no emotions. There's nothing to corrupt. That was a king's plan. Create the perfect empty container capable of imprisoning the Radiants forever. At least that's what he believed. But then, something unexpected happened. The chosen vessel, the one we know as a Hollow Knight, wasn't truly hollow. Through the game, small clues reveal something incredible. The Pale King actually formed an emotional bond with it. Several memories hint that the Hollow Knight respected or perhaps even loved its creator. And that's exactly what ruined everything, because the moment a vessel develops feelings, it is no longer perfectly empty. That tiny crack was enough. The Radiants found a way back, the infection returned, and Hallownest slowly collapsed. Ironically, the Pale King's greatest success became its greatest failure. Now comes perhaps the biggest mystery. If thousands of vessels died, why did ours survive? The game never gives a direct answer, which has led to years of theories. Some fans believe our knight simply escaped the abyss. Others think it wandered outside the Hallownest for years, growing stronger before eventually returning. Another theory suggests our knight may actually be closer to true Hallownest than the original Hollow Knight. Because unlike the chosen vessel, our knight shows almost no emotion. It never celebrates, never cries, or never speaks. It simply continues forward no matter what. Everything builds toward the game's ending. The knight eventually confronts the Hollow Knight itself. And if you reach this battle, you'll notice something heartbreaking. The Hollow Knight actually helps you. During the fight, it stabs itself. At first, this seems random, but many players believe it's desperately trying to resist the radiance. Almost like it knows it has failed. It's one of the saddest moments in the game. The hero begins to be replaced. And this brings us to the final mystery. Is our knight truly hollow, or are we simply repeating history? Throughout the adventure, the knight helps strangers, protects innocent bugs, collects charms, listens to stories, makes choices, and even some endings suggest the knight develops purpose. If that's true, then maybe it isn't perfectly hollow either. Maybe true emptiness was never possible. Maybe the Pale King was chasing an impossible dream from the very beginning. So, why is the knight hollow? Because it was created to become the perfect prison, a being with no thoughts, no emotions, and no identity. But Hollow Knight leaves us with one final question. Can anyone truly be empty? Or does every living creature eventually find something worth caring about? Maybe that's the real tragedy of Hallownest. No vessel was ever truly hollow. And here's the mystery I want to leave with you. Do you think our knight was actually the perfect vessel, or was it destined to fail just like the Hollow Knight before it? Let me know your theory in the comments, because in the Hollow Knight, sometimes the biggest mysteries are the ones Team Cherry never fully answers.